Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. If you will enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments to help me boost this video. Thanks. Story 1. Accused of theft with receipt in hand. My family and I are visiting Salem, Ma this weekend. My autistic teen is really hyper-focused on witchcraft lately and has been stoked about visiting all the shops. In one shop, the woman working the counter was really amazing, telling him cool stories behind a lot of the herbs they sell. He bought a book from her shop, refused a bag to save waste, and we went merrily on our way to the next shop. Next shop, he picked out a somewhat expensive wand, and I picked out a pretty candle. We go to check out, and the shopkeep tries to ring us up for the book in my husband's hand. My son passed it to him to hold while he looked at the wand. Completely honest mistake, so we just showed her our receipt and figured that would be it. It was not. She took the book from my husband and kept saying it's her book and that we have a problem. Her reason was that she said the price on the receipt is different than the book. Confused, we said that was really weird. We just bought it from a shop a few minutes ago, and it is the receipt that we were given. She threatened to go review the video, and we said great. That would be great. It will show my son was literally reading it as we walked in the door, and we can get on with it. At this point, my husband and I are still being patient and figuring this will be a simple thing to clear up. It's busy, and we understand mistakes happen. She goes back to just saying over and over that we have a problem and that she knows it's her book. I am getting frustrated and say that's a bit much. It's a common beginning witchcraft book that is sold in practically every single shop we've been in, and we literally have the receipt. She is insisting that we took it from her store because the price on the book is different than the receipt. Receipt has the title of the book printed BTW. She has the book in her hand and refuses to give it back. My son begins getting really agitated, and my daughter begins to cry. I tell them to go wait outside. My husband is insisting she check her video, and she is refusing now, saying that she just knows it's her book because of the price difference. Now we feel like we are crazy, so we start going through every bag we have, thinking perhaps we did pick up her book by mistake. No book. Now we are at a standoff. She will not give us the book back even though we have the receipt in hand. We are getting frustrated. It's been a few minutes of this back and forth, and we now just want the book so we can leave and skip the purchases. I asked my husband to let me check the receipt, and it says the title of the book, and $28.99 is the price. I say this, and she says no, it says $26.99. I look again. No, it says $28.99, and hand it back to her. She inspects the receipt for a minute, then pulls another customer, and there is a crowd waiting to be checked out to look at our receipt. That person also says it's $28.99. The shopkeep looks very angry for some reason, then starts actually yelling at us that we're supposed to have a bag from the shop that sold it to us. WTF. Now my husband has gotten to the end of his very long rope and tells her that as long as we have a receipt, there is no bag requirement. We have given her the proof of purchases, and we want that book back. She gives it back and continues to berate us for not having a bag. I say we're done here, and never mind the 90.00 purchases. We are leaving. Get this. She starts screaming no, and throwing you out. Get out, and starts coming around the counter at us. Absolutely nuts. I have never seen anything like this in my life. I'm honestly a bit freaked out, so I run outside. My husband has a few choice words to her about her treatment of us, then meets us out front. We are standing there catching our breath and trying to calm down our kids, and two women come out the store to console us. They both say that they are going online to give poor reviews based on our treatment, and that the woman was obviously in the wrong and should have just apologized for the confusion. It took us a good hour to calm down and get back into the holiday spirit. I was freshly angry this morning. Story 2. To correct our overcharge, we insist on a gift card. Friday night after work, hit the local Hellmart to pick up some groceries and supplies. Clerk double rings me on an item and overcharges on 2 items that were supposed to be on clearance. She booted me from the line so fast I didn't notice until I looked at the receipt. I go to customer service to receive a refund, about $30 overcharge. They agree that I was double charged and the clearance items were rung incorrectly. They ask if I would like a gift card. I decline, stating I paid with a bank card and will only accept the refund back on the card or in cash. They hold firm. I ask for the manager. She informs me they can only do the gift card. I reiterate that I did not pay with a gift card and will not be leaving with one. The smart-mouthed cashier tells me it's that or nothing. I tell her that Hellmart is not the company store. I will not accept their script, and I do not have to take this. I tell her okay, I haven't left the store with any of this order. I want a full refund on all of it. The manager tells her to process it. Asks me if I have cold goods in my bags, and I do. She calls a stalker up to return the items. Stalker arrives. I make him wait, telling him he can get the items once I have my refund. Angry line is forming behind me. They have to open another register. Refund is processed, including the overcharges. Cashier asks me if I want a gift card chargeback or cash. I expected a chargeback to the card, but wow, she's offering me cash. I tell her cash, and she hands over some $100 bills. And then some. The stalker reached for my card, and I said no thanks, I'm going to check out now. I waved my cash at her, as I said told you I wasn't accepting a gift card. Another cashier added, "Sir, don't argue with her," and I responded not arguing. Arguments over, and I won. This is gloating. I would have liked to have left all the items, but I had already invested my time in shopping, and didn't feel like going to a competitor to redo that. But I won't be going back to this location anytime soon. And if I do, I'll be putting the brakes on any whirlwind cashiers or sticking to self-check. Still can't believe they wouldn't refund $30 in cash or charge it back to correct their error, but would refund a few hundred in cash just because I changed my mind, even when I paid with a card. Story 3. When lying backfires. Last week I went out for a late lunch with my spouse. The restaurant was pretty dead since it was between lunch and dinner rushes. The dining room was also pretty empty when we got in, and we were told to sit anywhere. We sat at the back of the restaurant trying to explain it so it makes sense on the higher level, like where you go up like 4 steps and are separated from the regular floor by a couple feet and a railing. Hope you get what I'm trying to say, since it's part of the story. Anyway, right after we ordered drinks, 2 older women 60s come in and for some reason choose to sit under us. So basically, if I looked down through the railing, I could see their table. The one was loud, you know the kind. As her friend flipped through the menu, she kept commenting on the prices, but loud lady kept telling her not to worry about it. We ignored them for the most part. Our food came, their food came. Towards the end of the meal, the loud lady said, "It's time for our discount." Curious, I was looking now. She goes in her purse, pulls out a little strip of paper. Then I see she's unwrapping a blue Band-Aid. She puts a drop of ketchup on the pad part, presses it down a little, crumples the Band-Aid a bit, then tucks it into the small pile of food left on her plate. She tells her friend her nephew works here. She got this tip from him. So she's clearly going to complain about finding a Band-Aid in her food to get the meal comped. I had to go to the bathroom, which was on the regular floor. As I passed the bar, I see my server with a guy in a dress shirt and tie. I assume the manager. I tell them what I witnessed, just like a heads-up kind of thing. Sure enough, by the time I come out, I see the server and manager by loud lady's table. I take my time walking back because I want to see what's happening. Loud lady is insisting she found the Band-Aid in her food, and she knows that restaurants use blue Band-Aids, so it could only have come from the kitchen. The manager tells the server to go get the kitchen guys. At this point, I stop by a nearby pillar to watch the action. 4 guys come out, and the manager asks them to hold out their hands. 2 guys had pink bandages, 2 had none. Manager tells loud lady they ran out of the blue bandages a few days ago, and they were using Hello Kitty bandages from the store across the street. Loud lady was busted. Her friend looked embarrassed. They dropped her check, and I made my way back to my seat. Thanks to her comments, she was not prepared for paying that full bill her friend offered to help out. I think loud lady was treating. Apparently, when I was in the restroom, she made a scene when she found it. Based on my spouse's reenactment, in the car on the ride home, it was hilarious. Story 4. Saving a server's night. So I'm a middle-aged dude who is regular at the pub across the street from my condo. I seem to be well liked by the staff, and am on first-name basis with most of them. Anyhow, Saturday evening, one of the servers, a young college student, managed to dump her whole tray on herself. Think 2 margaritas, shots of tequila, and several beers. She came back to the server well next to my usual stool looking completely defeated and just completely soaked. I joked to her that if she needs it, she can borrow my shower. Anyhow, a few minutes later, she comes to me, grabs my elbow, and goes, "I'm on break, let's go." Laughing a bit. Instead, I just hand her my keys, tell her my unit number, and that there are fresh towels under the sink. 10 minutes later, she's back, looking like a new woman, and I wound up with a couple of free beers. Fair trade, I figure. Story 5. I hate when extra stuff gets added to my food. I'm lactose intolerant. It used to be a dairy allergy, but now I just take a pill before eating dairy. I still only eat certain things, and only when I want to. When I was a kid, it was annoying, because not only could I only eat certain foods, but every once in a while, when we'd go out to eat, the server would add something to be nice. I specifically remember being a kid, and out for breakfast, ordering the kids pancakes or something, and it coming out with whipped cream on it wasn't listed with whipped cream on the menu, only for the server to proudly say I added a smiley face for you. My parents would send it back to be remade, and I'd have to wait longer for my food. It would happen often enough that my mom would tell them when we ordered not to put anything extra on it. I thought those days were over because dairy allergies are more common now along with other allergies, and I feel like restaurants are more aware. Apparently not. Last night I went out to dinner with some friends. We decided to get dessert. I ordered apple pie. There was an option to get ice cream with it for more money, but I didn't. I don't like ice cream even with my lactate, which I didn't have on me. Our dessert comes out, and there's ice cream on all 3. I told the server I can't eat ice cream. She takes it back, but clearly just scraped it off the top and brought it back. The top of the pie looked wet. I asked for a new piece because I didn't want soggy pie. She brought a new one, but when I got my bill, there were 2 pieces of pie on it. It sort of became a back and forth. I felt like I was being a jerk. My friend said I was making too big of a big deal. She was trying to be nice, and I probably ruined it for other people by hassling her about it. Either of them have food allergies or sensitivity, though, and don't know how irritating it is when someone messes with your food. I worked in restaurants almost half my life. I'd never add random stuff to someone's food. Story 6. How my doctor almost killed me. This year my family moved to a new city, and I had to find a new family physician. I got in touch with the local hospital, and they suggested a family physician who works with their clients. I called and made appointments for the whole family to get physicals. Everything went fine for several months, until I became sick about a month ago. I knew I had an ear infection, as I am prone to them. I went to the doctor, and he said there was nothing wrong, and told me to just use some over-the-counter nasal spray. I'm okay. I guess you are the doctor. So I did as instructed and purchased nasal spray, and used it for a couple weeks. A little over a week later, my sinuses were hurting, and I lost my voice. I returned to the doctor and told him that I now have a sinus infection and a double ear infection because both ears are hurting. He told me that I just needed to use my nasal spray and get some over-the-counter ear drops. Once again, I listened, and a little over a week later, I could no longer stand the pain. I was using the drops, nasal spray, Dayquil, and Nyquil, and ibuprofen just to get through the day. I returned to my doctor and begged him to do something. He prescribed $300 steroid ear drops. And a few days later, I began having trouble breathing, and I began coughing up thick dark green and brown mucus. It got so bad I couldn't sleep in bed, and I started keeping track of how many times I woke up coughing up mucus. ATW, it was 26 times in 8 hours. After suffering through the weekend, I got an appointment first thing Monday morning. I came in with a fever of 103.3, a hacking cough, leaking ears, stuffed sinuses, body aches, chills, chest pain, a migraine from hell, shortness of breath, and no voice. My doctor tells me he is going to test for the flu and COVID. Then he prescribed some cough medicine and sent me on my way when the tests came back negative. I suffered all day Monday and Tuesday when my husband had enough and scheduled an appointment with a different doctor today. I arrived, and after all the preliminary testing, she listened to my lungs and sent me for an X-ray. Then about an hour and a half later, she called me and told me that I have a severe case of pneumonia, and she had already called in a prescription for me for antibiotics, steroids, and an inhaler. I was to pick it up and take it immediately, and if I was not significantly better, by tomorrow afternoon I was to go to the emergency room to have IV antibiotics. Needless to say, I did as she prescribed, and while I'm definitely not all better, I'm not feeling like I can't breathe and going to die anymore. Story 7. Bank teller who could not count. It was agonizing. I'm currently a bartender and barista and get a lot of cash tips. I usually exchange small bills at one job or another and accumulate larger bills for my deposit. At the end of the week, I go to my local bank to deposit $400 in 20s and 10s. I had counted it several times, faced all the bills, etc. Hand it to the teller, say this is $400 in 20s and 10s. What then proceeded was the most agonizing 5-ish minutes of my life. I watch him slowly try to count the bills, then give up and start grouping them on the counter in front of him. He puts down 4 20s, stares at it. I see him mouthing numbers to himself. He hesitantly puts another 20 on the pile, and he starts on the next pile. Again 4 20s, followed by a long, confused moment of trying to figure out if that adds up to $100. This continues, and he gets to the 10s. I watch him slowly put 11 10s in a pile. At this point I want to be like, that's $110. You put down 11 10s. But I abstain because I don't want to stress him out. He stares at the piles some more, then recollects them all together, and starts over. Piles of 20s and 10s, attempting to group them in $100 piles. He counts the 20s again. He says, is this $250? And like, no, it's $240 and $160 in 10s. It's $400 total. He starts the piling process again. Sometimes 4 20s go in a pile, sometimes 5. He keeps recounting the little piles, looking totally perplexed. Oh my goodness, I wanted to die. I'm looking around wondering if the other tellers are witnessing this. I think maybe he was stoned out of his mind. It took him well over 5 minutes to count the bills. The whole time I just wanted to tell him 5 20s make 100. Instead I stood there and tried to appear as indifferent as possible because I didn't want to stress him out. Screaming on the inside. Literally any cashier, bartender, server, whatever, can count money infinitely faster. Like how? Only explanation is that he was zooted. I wasn't in any hurry, so I didn't complain. But on a primal level, it was so frustrating watching him silently count and fail over and over and over again. And at the end he says, is this $350? And like, no, it's $400. Okay, he just took my word for it. Story 8. Ended up getting a cashier fired last night for calling me mentally challenged slur. So yesterday evening, I went to the supermarket down the street from my house. The store runs a promotional sale for meat products. Buy 5 items for $20. For as long as I've gone to this store, and the chain itself, it's always let you do this sale twice a day using their membership card. So I went to the self-checkout and rang up my items, and it wouldn't take the money off for the second order. Someone in the meat department had stickered a couple of packages of meat wrong. I called for the cashier watching the self-checkout over to help me. She said, oh, it only lets you get that sale once a day. I asked her when they had changed the keep in mind the sales paper, and all of the signs in the meat department say limit 2 transactions per day. She said it's been that way since I started working here in 2017. I told her calmly that I've been coming to this store for years, and 2 a day has always been the policy, and that it says it on the advertisements. Her response, are you ret dead or just stupid? I know my job. Do I come to your work and tell you how to do your job? Then she walked away, leaving the self-checkout on an employee service page ... so I couldn't even check out. After that, I left my stuff and walked over to the CS desk. I told them what happened, along with this nice old lady who was checking out at the self-checkout next to mine, who confirmed what the cashier had said. The manager on duty fixed my purchase. It took them a second to figure out that something had been mislabeled, and they called the cashier over and asked if what I said was true. She tried to say that I screamed at her and demanded free stuff, which was swiftly debunked by the nice older lady and several other people who were nearby. They fired her on the spot, and she's walked away in a huff. I wasn't happy she was fired, even if she deserved it. I was sad more than anything. If she had so openly said something like that to me, a person who isn't mentally handicapped, you can imagine that there's a good chance she said it to someone who was. I can't begin to think how that would feel. And if she had just taken the time to look over my order in the first place, and find that one item that the manager found in like a second, all of this could have been avoided. People, please don't use the word "ret dead." While it was at one time a common word to display disgust with someone's stupidity, or the stupidity of the situation, we know now that it is really hurtful. Story 9. Getting yelled at by a fast food employee for trying to make sure she was okay. So this morning I was hungry after taking my kid to school, didn't want to cook, and decided to stop at a fast food spot to grab something. I placed a mobile order, get there, pulled up to the drive-through thing, and waited, and waited, and waited. I sat there for 5 minutes or so, and nobody answered, so I'm like, maybe their speaker is down or something, and pulled up to the window. I looked in the window, knocked once, and waited a few more minutes. Nothing. At this point, I'm like, okay, maybe they're not running drive-through for some reason. I'll park and just go in. I pull around, park, go up to the door. Locked. I knock. No answer. The lights are on, the chairs are down, and there's a car in the parking lot. So it's obvious that somebody showed up this morning and opened the place, but I couldn't see anyone inside. I called the store phone number, no answer. There's no sign indicating they're closed, or the whole be back in 10 minutes thing, or whatever ... just nothing. A few cars pull up to wait, and I tell them that nobody's answering. An older gentleman pulls up and says that's really weird, and he is concerned that something has happened to whoever is inside. Maybe they got robbed, or maybe someone had a medical emergency and was passed out inside, but he stops there every morning, and this has never happened. He sees a cop sitting in an adjacent parking lot and goes over and asks him to check and make sure everything is okay. Cop pulls up, asks me what's going on, and I told him nobody was answering anywhere. And the guy said he's here every morning. And this has never happened. Since there's no sign and nobody will answer, he wanted to make sure everything was okay. Hop walks around the building, eventually makes contact with the employee via the drive-through window, and the employee tells him she couldn't open because not enough people showed up and she was waiting for her manager to get there. Cool, everything's fine, no problem. Hop explains that people were just concerned because everything was on but nobody was answering. He comes back and tells the guy that she's okay, just can't open, and everyone goes to leave. Hop and dude pull off. I'm walking to my car, and the employee comes out hollering and carrying on at me for calling the cops on her. I tried to explain that nobody called the cops. He happened to be parked in the parking lot of the little complex, and that I wasn't even the one who asked him to come. I tried to explain that nobody was upset, that they weren't open, that dude was just worried something may have happened to her, and wanted to make sure she was okay. She continued yelling and cussing at me about how I'm petty for calling the cops over a damned burger, and I again tried to explain that nobody called the cops on her, and nobody was upset or thought she had done anything wrong, just wanted to ensure that she was okay. She continued screaming at me. I finally lost my patience and told her that she'd had nearly 2 hours from when they normally open to put a damn sign up that says they're closed. Or she could have easily come onto the speaker, to the window, or to the door and just said they couldn't open, but she chose not to, and that was on her. If she would have done any of those things, nobody would have been worried about her, and nobody would have wasted their time sitting there waiting. It would have worked out better for everyone if she'd have taken 30 seconds to scribble that on a piece of paper. I finally just got in my car and left as she was still carrying on. But damn man, dude just wanted to make sure she was okay because it was not normal for that to happen, and she took it as a personal attack for whatever reason, and then yelled at me when I hadn't even done anything but been there.